forms of saving and deducting. What would you say for people who perhaps rely on pension loans for like things that come about? What's your opinion on that?
On people borrowing, you mean against their pension or borrowing against their 401k?
Yeah.
I would say only in emergency. It's just, you would prefer not to compromise those funds in any way. And let me step back and say, I'm not an expert on, 401k loans or anything like that. But I know, anything that jeopardizes or, your pension. I don't know. I've never heard of a pension loan, but there possibly can be. But I know there are definitely 401k loans when you borrow against your 401k. I would only say in case of emergency, preferably you wouldn't have to. It's less preferable, though, to take money out of your 401k. So if you have some emergency and you need to borrow against it, it's not preferable, but you can do it. But even worse is taking money out. Because at that point, if you're under 59 and a half, not only do you have to pay the taxes on that money that you took out, but you have to pay a 20% penalty as well.
Oh, wow.
If it's choice, yes, because that money is intended for you for retirement. And I don't think you can take money out of your 401k without penalty until you're 59 and a half. Right. So if it's a choice between I have a big medical bill or I have some, big major emergency that my emergency fund doesn't cover, and it's a choice between taking money out of my 401k or borrowing against it, I would say probably borrow against it, but preferably, you wouldn't have to do either. One antidote to that is to have an emergency fund. And that's another blog post that I have on Millie Money. People always say have 3 to 6 months, but really it depends on the kind of job that you have and whether you can easily find another one. So when I worked on Wall Street, all the regulations changed in kind of 8 and 09, and I lost my job. I had 2.5 years worth of savings because I knew that it was going to be really hard to find another job on Wall Street because banks were shutting down and downside and stuff. And that 2.5 years was barely enough. Yeah. So it really depends on your age, your ability to find another job quickly, how much your unemployment is going to pay. And it varies widely from state to state. Like the maximum in New Jersey is $600 a week. In New York, it's four something a week. So all of that goes into how much you put into an emergency fund. So the reason I bring up an emergency fund is because if you have 6 months of savings or 9 months of savings, or even 3 months of savings, that lessens the chance that you're going to have to borrow against your 401k or take money out of your 401k.
Yeah, because if you're investing and you have, let's say $7,000 in that in a personal portfolio,
right,
you can access that money. It takes a little while, like maybe 7 to 10 business days or something like that. But I think that's far better than borrowing against something else, because you're right. There are taxes you have to pay. There's interest you have to bear. There are a lot of reasons why you shouldn't do that.
Right. And so I won't say borrowing against your 401k is a bad thing. I would encourage you to research it. And that's a great idea. We'll do a video on it. Because I'm always looking for topics. So I'll do a video on it because I'm not the expert on that, but we'd like to do a video on it. And we encourage questions from people because we'll do a video on it. So when we really launch in January, I hope to have a library with a lot of videos in it that you can just kind of search and find an answer to your question. And again, they'll all be on our YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. So I want to touch on what Larrae said about borrowing against, I think you said pension, Larrae.
Yes.
And I know what you're talking about. Larrae and I used to work together.
Oh, okay.
And so I did borrow money from an investment at that job.
Okay. And this was a 401k or a pension?
I think it's not the pension. It's your 401k.
401k. Okay.
At any rate, in that situation, you do have to pay interest, but then you get some of that interest back.
Right.
And I borrowed against it to complete my down payment on my house.
Okay.
I just paid it back. And then, after I paid, 60% of it back, then they give you a percent of the interest rate back. So it's a smaller interest rate.
Right.
So I think that was, I wouldn't have done it. Well, I would have done it different at that time. I would have been investing, so that was a good option for me to do that.
Right.
And for emergencies, I think that is a good option. but you have this money elsewhere, and it's yours, and it's made money on top of the money that you put in. I think it's a better option. And I think that's what you're saying, Shelly.
Yeah, that's probably that's a very good point. I think the research or the expert that I was reading who said don't do it was just thinking about the fact that you're losing the interest on it.
Right.
But again, for something like a house, it may be worth it. You know what I mean? Because you hopefully will make that money back, in terms of tax breaks, building equity in your house, et cetera. So it really kind of is, I won't say a personal decision, but it's specific to the reason why you're doing it.
Right.
And a down payment on a house, or if it's to pay medical bills that, you had an unforeseen, you probably don't have a choice. And it's probably better than charging them to your credit card or having the hospital come after you. So it just really depends on the reason why you're doing it.
Right. So what is long money?
So long money. So when we on Wall Street say you're long something, it means you like it. You like it and you own it. Specifically, you own it, not just you like it. So you're long Boeing stock because you like Boeing stock and you own it. So if you're long something, you own it. Yes. On the regular streets, as our video says, when you have long money, it means you have a lot of money. So we say our goal at Millie Money is to have you be long money and have long money. So be long money means, have money, and have long money means have money. So we want you to be long money and have long money. And that's kind of our goal at Millie Money. So when you say I'm short something on Wall Street, that means you don't like it and you sold it. But if you're long something, that means you own it. And like I said, our goal is to have you be long money.
Now, question for you. I understand that you it's more of an educational piece, but if someone were to proposition you to be like, a consult for them, would you consider it?
Probably not, just because I don't want to put my experience on Wall Street is looking at specific companies and making this decision about whether to invest or not in that particular company. So that's kind of my area of expertise. I'm not a financial planner. So I'm not somebody, that person needs to have some tax expertise. They need to be able to look at your personal situation, your age, your career, what you do for a living, and kind of make a plan for you. You would need, and when I say you, I mean somebody who wants that, needs somebody who's a certified financial planner or maybe a certified financial educator. That person kind of looks at specifically your situation and makes a plan for you. That's not really my area of expertise. What I do well is analyze specific companies, and I know what questions to ask. So even if I don't know Netflix or I don't know, some other company, I know what questions to ask of an analyst because that's what I've done for years. And I know how to explain concepts like what's an index fund, et cetera. And so that's what I hope to do with the site. But there are tons of great financial planners out there. I think there's something called the CFP, which is a certified financial planner. And you can probably Google CFP, and there's probably a certification, and there's probably a site that lists, CFPs. Right. So that's the kind of person you would enlist for that. I'm somebody who looks at specific investments, not necessarily your whole life and your portfolio and your tax situation.
And so maybe I should have been like a little clear in my question, but so basically the reason why I asked is because I've talked to like some people in my age group who are very much interested in investing, and a lot of times when you're networking, they have like all these organizations where they have people who want you to invest in something. A lot of times people don't know what to ask. Or like, well, how do I know if it's good for me? Like they don't really know what to ask. They don't know what to expect. So in that sense, is it something that someone could like maybe, consult like, what should I ask about, an investment for property or an investment in an app? Like what questions do I ask? Because it's not the same across the board.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. So you've given me two great ideas for videos that we need to do, because you're right. People ask me all the time, like, should I invest in this? And so I will give them, I can't tell them what to do.
Right.
but I can give them the questions to
what to ask.
So if somebody's asking you about a real estate investment, this is what you need to ask.
Right.
You know what I mean? You need to ask about liquidity. Am I going to be able, because real estate is something that's not quote unquote liquid.
Right.
Like it's hard to get your money out. You basically have to sell a property in order to get your money out. So that's a great topic for a video. It's kind of like if you're looking at real estate, what kind of questions should you ask?
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually a great topic for a video.
Okay, good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Can you believe it's been an hour?
I know. I had so much fun. It went by so fast.
It's been more fun if you had a cocktail with us, Shelly.
I know. Next time I'll remember I'll have my mimosa for Thanksgiving in honor of this podcast. But if you ever have me on again, I will be prepared with my cocktail. You guys are great. I had so much fun on a topic that's not always interesting, but I think the three of us made it interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting, but I'm a little biased. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, I would, and Larrae, you can chime in whenever you want, but I think we should have her back on the show after she launches in 2020. And then we can talk about how far the website has come, and help get more subscribers and things like that.
Right.
I think this is an important topic that people in and outside of our communities can learn from and really needs to understand. And we need to get rid of the fear that's associated with investing throughout our community, and hopefully do better at teaching our young people how to invest.
Absolutely.
Shelly, I'm going to be a first-time grandmother in January.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm waiting for him to come out because I didn't mean it like that.
I know what you mean.
I mean, he is going to come out, but I'm waiting for him to be born.
Right.
And I guess he'll get a social security number, and then I can set up an account for him. And
start him young.
Stash. I know I can do Stash. I'm going to do Stash because it's easy and I understand it, and it's inexpensive, and I know how to control that. So for me, that's the easiest. But that's the first thing that I'm going to do for him. Right. So I want to have you back on the show and talk a little bit more about how to do that, because by that time he will be born, and I will have an account set up and doing some things with that. So I would love to kind of talk about that. And
great, I'd love to. Yeah, and you know what? January is the time when people make their New Year's resolutions about I'm going to get my financial house in order. So that's why we're hoping to launch in January. So we'd love to come back and talk to you guys the beginning of the year sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to add on to that point, because as you know, as soon as January hit, the next thing on people's minds is what? Those income taxes.
Oh, income taxes. Oh, Lord, yes.
I want to say to our listeners, please ask money.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to ask questions, because I feel like what happens is that a lot of people want to invest, but sometimes they're embarrassed to ask, to say, oh, I really don't know what to do, because that happens a lot. Especially in my age group, it's because you're educated, you don't want to make it seem like you're ignorant or naive to certain topics.
Right.
And I feel like it's important, to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here, or hey, can you explain this to me, or hey, can you point me in the right direction? So I think it's important that you guys hold on to your income tax money, wait for her videos to launch. That way you have the opportunity to ask her quick questions like, hey, I want to make an investment in this, but I don't know what to ask, or I don't know what stipulations I should agree to. Because in investing, there are things that you have to agree to, and some things you have to set dollar amounts to and percentages. So I think it's important that you ask somebody first, and that you save your money. Don't throw all of it into just one investment. So please hold on to it. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Great idea. Invest in that tax refund. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And I was going to add to that, in that if, sometimes we wait for our tax refund to do specific things.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Right.
But what if you took a percentage and invested that percentage? You know what I mean? So you're not using the full refund.
Right.
Assuming you get one. But, you're not using, you can still, get what it is you need at that moment, but invest a portion of your return and, watch your gains.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be my suggestion.
That's a great idea. If you're getting $1,500 back, say, you know what, I'm going to spend $500, put $500 toward my annual vacation or my semi-annual vacation. $500 I'll put in my